Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Bible for Busy People. I'm Jen, and I've gone into studying the women of the Bible with a lot of assumptions. One being that women didn't have a lot of power or respect in ancient Near East culture. But that isn't the case. Women were respected in their sphere of running and providing for the household. Some women were able to own their own property or run businesses of their own. I say this because it's important not to go into the stories of the Bible, especially the stories about women, with assumptions. We tend to mischaracterize women in the scriptures when we don't handle their stories with care and respect. In my experience, I've tended to offer more grace to the men in the Bible, while I've approached stories of the women in the Bible with more criticism, and I'm looking to do that differently now. So we're talking about Elisha this week, and Elisha formed a strong kinship and almost family relationship with a woman in the town of Shunem, which is what we're going to look at today. We're starting in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. One day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, "I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunammite." So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, "Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my own people." "What can be done for her?" Elisha asked. Gehazi said, "She has no son, and her husband is old." Then Elisha said, "Call her." So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. "About this time next year," Elisha said, "you will hold a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Please, man of God, do not mislead your servant." But the woman became pregnant, and the next year, about that same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father who was with the reapers. He said to his father, "My head, my head." His father told his servant, "Carry him to his mother." After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. So she goes to her husband. She says, "I'm going to go find Elisha." He's like, "Why? It's not any kind of holiday." She said, "That's all right." She goes out, and Elisha sends Gehazi to go meet her, and the woman says everything is fine. And then she gets to Elisha, and she falls at his feet. It says, when she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why." "Did I ask you for a son, my lord?" she said. "Didn't I tell you don't raise my hopes?" Elisha senses that something is wrong. He sends Gehazi to go to see the boy and to put his staff on the boy's face. And the Shunammite woman will not leave Elisha, so Elisha ends up going with her. And Gehazi runs ahead and isn't able to do anything. In verse 32, it says, when Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then he got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite." And he did. When she came, he said, "Take your son." She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. Shunem was a small town allotted as the inheritance to Issachar. Like we talked about, women had a degree of agency, and this unnamed woman certainly seemed to. She made the decision to welcome in Elisha, and she was the one to propose building a room for him to stay when he was in town. She might have had her own funds to put towards this offering. Her good hospitality is often noted here, and hospitality was customary at the time, but she truly stands out. She had a heart of kindness and generosity that prompted action that went above and beyond expectation. She is one of the many examples of women in the Bible who made up their minds to do something righteous and didn't hesitate. BibleHub.com suggests that inviting Elisha in, she was inviting Yahweh in, preparing a space that is like a sanctuary for the man of God. She also didn't do it to receive a reward. She asked for nothing in return. Gehazi is involved here, and he's going to come back to be important later, too. There was trepidation when Elisha foretold that she would have a child, and as it turned out, one of her worst fears was realized. There's a lot of specificity in this passage. I'm curious about why the Shunammite woman felt like she had to lie. And Ruth O'Reilly Smith writes this on her blog. In the midst of her despair, the Shunammite woman announces to her closest family and the man who serves the man of God that all is well. For she knows that on this occasion, she must get to the one who has the power to make things truly well again. I also find it interesting that Elisha knew that something was wrong, but he said God had kept him from knowing exactly what. He tried to solve the problem by sending his staff, but the woman refused to leave without him. I wonder if God was teaching Elisha compassion and allowing him a depth of relationship with this woman. In case it's not clear, we're not talking in a romantic sense, but to truly know her and hear her, to represent God for her. This required more than just a quick answer or a simple fix, but heartfelt action and intentional effort on Elisha's part. His efforts had to match her desperation and need. And maybe that's what compassion is, truly taking on the emotion of the person before you. She went herself all the way to meet him, and Elisha needed to meet her in the same way. I think this represents the way God meets us in our distress and grief. So there's a second part to this story that happens in 2 Kings 8. We don't have time to read it today. But basically, Elisha sends this woman and her family away because there's going to be a famine. She approached the king when she came back to appeal for her property. And who happens to be there but Gehazi? And what's happening at that moment is the king is asking Gehazi what Elisha has done that is miraculous. And the woman shows up just then. Gehazi shares about how her son had been healed. And it's just an incredible, full circle moment. God worked out this relationship between Elisha and the Shunammite to care for Elisha and also to intervene in a powerful way in this woman's life. How have your friendships provided insight into your relationship with God? How have friends been blessings to you? And how have you been a blessing to them? I'll leave you with those questions. Let's talk again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.